Tonight on Closer Look, as tensions continue to rise in the ongoing trade war between Canada and the United States, certain industries along the border are feeling the strain. One of the most affected sectors is the duty-free business. Sioux Today reporter Greg McGrath-Gowdy has been covering the impact on tariffs for the last several weeks, and living in a border city brings a first-hand perspective to this story. Greg joins us from Sault Ste. Marie tonight. Greg, how has the ongoing trade war specifically impacted Canadian duty-free businesses compared to other border businesses, such as those in tourism or perhaps transportation?
So obviously the trade war is not good for any business in a border town or many other towns. Having goods restricted moving across the border and people not being as keen to go across is not going to be good for business. But the unique thing about the duty-free shops is that these businesses are for export only. So if you're buying something on the Canadian side, it has to go over to the American side. If you're buying something on the American side, it has to come back over to the Canadian side. So with a lot less border traffic these days, they're being directly hit. And, there's some other businesses too. Like when I was writing a story a couple weeks ago, I chatted with one package shipping service in the States, in Sioux, Michigan. And they mentioned to me they have close to 8,000 customers and only a handful of them are American. Because what they do is you can order a package to their business, go across the border, pick it up and bring it back home. So there's a number of different businesses being impacted here.
So we know a duty-free store in Sarnia actually finished a day of business last week with sales of negative $67 due to a return. Now that may be a bit of an anomaly, but from a dollars and cents perspective, how bad is it?
So we got a press release last week out of the Border Mayors Alliance, and they had some pretty harrowing stats in there. Apparently, some of these businesses have seen business plummet by upwards of 80%, and up to a third of them can end up closing in the coming months, according to what they said there.
You mentioned the Mayor's Border Alliance. Let's talk about them for a sec. Who are they? How did they come together? And most importantly, what are they advocating for?
So the Border Mayors Alliance is sort of like an ad hoc organization that came together because of the trade war, and they're made up of 35 Canadian border communities across Canada. And they basically meet every week to advocate for different solutions that could, help the communities impacted by all this. And as part of that, they're connecting with, U.S. mayors across the border. They're connecting with local politicians at the provincial, federal level, and just advocating to, either find fixes to the situation or find ways to support those affected by it and that sort of thing.
All right, so the fixes, or at least some of them, can come from the Canadian government. Any efforts or responses from the government so far to address these concerns from the Borders Mayor Alliance?
None that I've seen that are directly linked to the Border Mayors Alliance, but, you see things happening out on the campaign trail. Like I think very recently here, Prime Minister Mark Carney promised $2 billion to help bolster Canada's auto sector, which could be heavily impacted by tariffs. And also, there's auto sectors are pretty important in some of Canada's border towns. He's also proposed ripping down internal trade barriers and stuff like that, as have other people running in the federal election. So I haven't seen anything that's directly linked to the Border Mayors Alliance, but perhaps there has been some influence behind the scene there.
Greg, let's go back to the pandemic for a second. How has that experience shaped the current advocacy for border businesses? Are there any lessons learned that are being applied today?
Well, I know I chatted with the Sault Ste. Marie mayor here, Matt Shoemaker, and he did mention, for some of these businesses, we may need something of a pandemic approach, whether employees are getting something akin to the CERB benefit that was paid out there through the pandemic, or perhaps low interest loans or something like that. Just so that people can get through as this trade war is taking place. I'm not aware myself of any such packages being announced yet at any level of government, but it's definitely something front of mind, I think, here locally with our mayor, and something he thinks may need to happen, particularly for businesses like these duty-free shops, which rely exclusively on cross-border traffic.
So you're located in Sault Ste. Marie, a city that borders the state of Michigan. What impact has the tariff situation had on cross-border travel there?
So a few weeks ago, when this whole trade war thing really broke out and the tariffs were finally dropped on Canada, I went out and I talked to some people just at grocery stores. And the one thing I found is most people are adamantly shopping Canadian. And then when you look at the border crossing stats for Sault Ste. Marie, there was actually a 13.5% drop this February compared to last year. And there was also a drop from 70,000 crossings this January to about 59,000 crossings the next month, this February. So there's certainly been less people going back and forth across the border. Yeah, definitely.
All right, there's Greg McGrath-Gowdy from Sault Ste. Marie on tonight's Closer Look.